And now to a story that you will only see on Fox 5. We've uncovered some new details about the funding behind the proposed mosque at Ground Zero. We have learned that one of the financial backers of the mosque project contributed to a terror group. But he says that he thought that the money was going to a harmless charity. Fox 5's Charles Leaf has our exclusive story.
Hassan, how you doing, sir? Charles Lee from Fox 5 News. Remember Hisham El Zanati? He's the Egyptian-born businessman who's one of mosque developer Sharif El Gamal's money men. I'd like to ask you just a couple of quick questions, if I may.
I'm not available now.
May I ask you a couple of questions about Sharif El Gamal, please, sir? Sir, would you just tell us how you know Sharif El Gamal? We now know El Zanati has a stake in the mosque near Ground Zero. His attorney confirms El Zanati made, quote, a significant investment in the $4.8 million purchase. And Fox 5 News has also learned that in 1999, Hisham El Zanati sent money to a terrorist organization, the Holy Land Foundation for Relief and Development, also known as HLF.
So it changes the game. It really changes the issues. It changes the way we look at the First Amendment issues and brings on a whole new series of questions. And we're not talking about a terrorist organization who's on a watch list or some international list. We're talking about a major international terrorist organization that was convicted right here in the United States just 3 years ago by a jury.
HLF's tax records show El Zanati contributed more than $6,000 to the Holy Land Foundation. It was shut down by the federal government in 2001 and designated a global terrorist. 5 of its leaders were convicted in 2008 of providing material support to Hamas.
That money helped pay for suicide bombings and other terrorist attacks, shootings, etc.
Federal investigators say from its inception, HLF existed to support Hamas, though it was set up as the largest Muslim charity in the United States. El Zanati's attorney tells Fox 5 his client believed he was contributing monthly to an orphanage.
If you gave money in 1999, you probably had some inkling that HLF was giving money to Hamas and therefore to terrorist operations.
El Zanati's $6,000 contribution to HLF came in the same year his Egyptian parents were killed in the crash of Egypt Air Flight 990. It went down in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Nantucket Island. His attorney says the crash changed El Zanati's life and brought him closer to Islam. Fox 5 made several attempts to talk to El Zanati. Each time he avoided us. His contributions to HLF now raise new questions.
This really changes the debate. It really changes the debate about how insensitive it is or whether you agree with it, you disagree. And now it raises questions about security, safety, and whether or not we have a responsibility to check out whether or not these people are involved in some type of terrorist organization.
Well, Fox 5 reporter Charles Leaf and security expert Robert Strang joining us right now on how this latest development could impact the future of the mosque. Bob, you said that this could really change the debate here. How so? Couldn't this just be a simple, honest mistake on his part?
It is, but when you take a look at it objectively, and take a look at it from an investigative point of view, and what Charles has uncovered, remember, Charles doesn't have surveillance, he doesn't have wiretaps, he doesn't have informants that are inside a community to give him information, he doesn't have the kind of resources that the government has, but yet he found out about this link with a terrorist organization, with the main person who's financing the operation. That's pretty good. The second thing is, you look at the developer himself and look at his past in terms of, how he rose up in the real estate market very quickly to be able to buy these tens of millions of dollars worth of real estate being backed by major financial backers. So clearly what Charles has uncovered just on his own, without the resources of the government, without the investigative skill and talent, clearly is kind of an interesting view of what's going on here.
Yeah, Charles, this is a great piece. I mean, great work as always. When you confronted him, what kind of vibe were you getting from him? We saw on the tape here that he obviously did not want to talk to you, but was it kind of a put-off that he gave you, or was it just an absolutely get out of my face?
Well, the first thing I think is it was total disbelief that we were even there.
Really?
I don't think that he was suspecting that anyone was going to come knock on his door, and that's probably due in large part to the fact that he has been sort of kept in the shadows. This is a guy that really was not in the limelight. Sharif El Gamal, the mosque developer, was sort of taking all of that attention, and here you had a guy on the sidelines. So he wasn't expecting this to come, but when we showed up, it was very apparent to me he wanted nothing to do with this. He didn't want to touch on this because clearly there was more to
So
come.
he thought this was under the radar. Let me ask you about Andrew Cuomo. He has said all along that if anybody has any, he said he was not going to investigate the mosque. He basically said that there was no reason to do that. But he did leave the door open, saying that if anybody had any information, they should bring it to him, and then maybe there would be a further investigation, as you alluded to, Bob.
Well, here
what
you
are
go.
we doing here?
Here you go. We will certainly be asking the Attorney General if he's going to look into this further, given the fact that we have now found that one of the primary principal financiers, the person who actually bought this mosque, absolutely has a link to having funded or contributed money to a known terrorist organization.
Okay, now if we follow the money trail here a little bit more, where do you think this is going to lead?
Well, Charles can probably answer as well.
What's your suspicion? What's your gut as a reporter?
Well, I think clearly this is going to open up a whole new set of questions, and I think these questions are now going to have to be asked by the professional investigators, the Attorney General. Wonder whether or not this will give Mayor Bloomberg pause, if this is not something that he will at least step back from and look at this objectively and say that this warrants some sort of an investigation in terms of who is actually behind this mosque development, and are there any additional links to terrorist organizations? Anyone else involved in this project that may have been funding terrorist organizations? Valid questions for professional investigators.
You know what, Bob, you bring up a good point. I mean, Charles did exhaustive work on this, but I mean, he does not have the resources that a government agency would have, right? A prosecutor would have.
Right, or the FBI or CIA. I mean, you got to remember, this is a situation where it's changed now. We were talking about the debate and whether or not the mosque should be situated in Lower Manhattan, and now it's really a different issue. With what Charles has uncovered here is raised questions about the financing, the money, and the people behind it. So it's apples and oranges. I mean, this is really not so much anymore a debate on whether or not it should be built. It's really a debate on the money and the people and who's really behind it. It's a question about security and safety. It's a question about New Yorkers have a right to know moving forward.
Bob Strang, thank you very much. Charles Leaf, as always, great work, and we appreciate it.